If you haven't heard me or other Paladins content creators already banging on about it, Season 1 is here, or at least for now, on the public test server. There's been lots of angry voices, calls of pay to win, people saying the game is no longer Paladins, and on the other side, untold positivity from Hi-Rez. So today, I'm going to weigh in on Season 1 and try to give as much of a reasoned look at the good, the bad, and the ugly. But just before I start, I want to make it clear to everybody that this isn't the final live version, it is being tested, and Hi-Rez are looking for feedback, and this is just here to add to that sea of voices. Things can still be changed or be tweaked. Onto the good. And I think this side has been covered by Hi-Rez and people like Rain Day and even my own reactions on stream, so I will spend less time on it. So first off, with Season 1 a new mode is coming, Survival Mode. It's round based, best of 5 where you have 1 life per round and win by eliminating the whole enemy team. A fog that deals percentage based damage comes from the edge of the map after a delay to a circle in the centre where it stops, forcing players to clash and limiting the time of the rounds. It has 2 purpose built maps and was an old mode in previous closed beta. It isn't perfect, but I am loving this mode. I can't get enough of it, and I will be playing a lot of this when it goes live. Be sure of that. And the maps are top notch, purpose built with levels and hiding spots that really fit the mode. And this is what PvE should have been like. Next, the UI work that has been done is great. There's a new page to look through the cards without needing to go into the loadout editing mode. The mode select menu looks great, splitting up the game modes with art and also locking the PvE mode from new players who don't realise it is hard, which I did complain about before. There's also an indicator to show generally how someone's card build is weighted, ability centric, weapon centric, armor centric, etc. And the in-game tab menu has generally just been cleaned up. Finally, we have customizable reticles. All good, in my opinion. Finally, legendary cards are coming to the realm, and these cards give each champion a super buff to one ability. They are meant to allow each champion to better define how they play in the game. It has also come with some nerfs to champions' cards or base build to give the legendary cards more meaning. It's going to change the whole meta of the game, as champions have pretty much all changed. And this one really fits into the categories of good, bad, and ugly, so you will be seeing it again. The first good thing about the legendaries is that a lot of them are undeniably fun to play with. Having a booster on Ruckus that pushes you up into the air if you stand still is hilarious and can be very useful. A lot of the movement abilities have been turned up a notch, and these movement abilities are to begin with a reason I enjoy Paladins so much, as the fights are often intense and mobile. Next, some champions like Eevee did have cards that you would always pick, no matter what, and these were just better than the other ones like Wormhole, which is now a legendary. And the champions that had these cards were throughout the patches often seen as the most overpowered ones. The legendaries have leveled the playing field here and balances these super cards without actually removing them. Next, it does give you more choice when it comes to building card decks. Before there was often one ultimate build on champions, but now there could be 3 or more builds built around each of the legendaries to achieve something different and for a different situation. Finally, before, as I said, champion picks were pretty much counter picks to other specific champions, and some lineups didn't really work against each other. Now with these cards, champions can often adapt to different lineups and work in sets of champions that wouldn't have made sense or had been useful in the past open beta. That's all good for me. Last on the good, there is a Drogo's alien skin where you spit eggs and acid, and yes, this model set, 100% yes. It's probably my favourite so far actually. So we're here. The bad. I'm not gonna lie folks, the whole new grinding system and unlocks for cards is pretty messed up. I'll come back to the big point I want to make in a minute about the new player experience, but first I'm going to pick apart the grind for Essence in Season 1. So Hi-Rez have been talking about this a lot, and how they wanted a gold sink and a reason to spend your gold. So their response was to make Radiant chests purchasable with gold, but also adding a new currency called Essence, which can be obtained from these chests, and which in turn unlocks the champion cards and new legendary cards, which before were modestly priced with gold. So how does it all actually work in practice? First off, you get cards, poses, and all the other stuff already in the Radiant chests, but now you also get Essence by getting duplicate cards that you already own. I originally thought you'd be able to get Essence separately to cards as just another drop, so you would have the choice to unlock the other cards that you didn't get from the random number generator or RNG that these chests are. What does this exactly mean then? It means that the card unlock system is now completely RNG. To begin with, when you have no cards, you won't actually be able to get any Essence. Only all players that already have stockpiles of cards will be getting the Essence from the duplicates, which to me kind of seems like a paradox in itself. So a new player does get one chest at every level up to level 30, But with each of those, you only get 3 possible cards, poses, sprays, and a few other things. Even if you 100% get cards, you would only get 90 cards. When there's a total of 352 cards in the game with 16 cards per champion and 22 champions, and yes, you do have 110 unlocked as a new player at default, but there are still 242 until you catch them all. You also do have daily and weekly quests, which give you gold and at the end of matches, but weekly quests only give 800 gold each, and dailies give 150 each, so both with 3 possible. So per week with those challenges you get 2,400 gold, and you can get daily 450 gold with those daily quests. Now when we look at the cost of a single Radiant chest, 3,000 gold, not even with all your once a week quests can you unlock a single Radiant chest. So if the RNG system and all of the stuff you've heard before isn't bad enough at letting players get the cards they want, Hi-Rez have also decided to make the cards different rarity, going from 500 essence common, 1,250 rare, and 5,000 with the epic cards. I'd also like to add, on the more ugly side, these card rarities don't make any sense. If there are better cards than others in the lineup, shouldn't they actually focus on bringing them in line with the others, not celebrating the fact that they are better or not? It's just a weird system. And that isn't really how things are. It doesn't reflect how the cards actually work, and it's just going to confuse new players who think they will be objectively better. Now, let's look at the conversion rates of those cards in comparison. This means when you get a duplicate of a card from the chest, and then you get some essence. A common duplicate will give you 60, a rare 250, and an epic 1,250. Literally, makes no sense to get this essence from cards. People have also guessed that legendary cards will be 10,000 essence. So you basically need 8 epic cards duplicate to get a legendary card. It isn't even so much that you can't get all of the cards, but that you lose any focus or choice. A new player can't build up one champion at a time or build things out this way even if they wanted to. With the old gold system, there was still a sense of a grind, and a new player would have to choose between grinding for new champions or building card decks unless they got the Founders Pack. But this is just a game of luck, and you can't realistically get essence reliably to unlock all the cards and builds. There are 2 gigantic warning flags here. Firstly, that there is an insane grind for new players looking to get into the game and unlocking cards for champions. And secondly, it is all locked behind RNG chess systems that leave you pretty helpless when it comes to choice. If the essence system comes out, it will shatter the new player experience by making it a huge block to players wanting to compete in the game on an even playing field with their peers. If this system was in the game when I started, I would have quit, period. This would have 100% stopped me from wanting to carry on. What I would have said then, I would have been like, this is just another messed up free-to-play game, and gone back to Overwatch and Dota 2, and carried on my merry way. So let's ignore the fact of the system being totally messed up and the RNG. Even without all that, there is still a fine balance of what new players will put up with when they come into a game. I have a cautionary tale as someone coming from PlanetSide 2 from its release. That game was crippled by the new player experience. There was huge disparity in player skill, but also there was a huge grind to unlock new skills and abilities and levels of those, which Paladins doesn't have, to be fair to it. Like, if you get a card, you get all the levels. Whilst there wasn't 100% better skills, some of them still work better in certain engagements. And this is so bad for a PvP game where you're thrown in with other players of different skill levels. It doesn't seem at the moment that casual matchmaking is all that great, if it exists at all, so imagine a player going up against a high level player with everything unlocked. It's just not fair. So going back to PlanetSide 2, only recently, and after in my opinion the golden window of opportunity has passed, the development team tried to pick this apart, and props to Rel, a YouTuber turned developer. He picked up a lot of the system apart and tried to give new players as much help as possible to start, and giving default some skills that weren't exactly situational most of the time, and giving the base level of all abilities to players. Back to Paladins, if this system goes ahead, it is going to put new players off, but also they are going to tell their friends, YouTubers are going to start and trash talk the RNG system, and this is just going to hurt the game a lot. I could see a lot of pain, a long process of Hi-Rez groaning at new player retention, then eventually a move back to a new player experience, but perhaps a little too late. My advice to Hi-Rez is to just scrap the system, don't put new players grind behind an RNG system, and don't make them grind too much. Let's face it, the real reason this is getting pushed is because Hi-Rez want people to buy the boost, to give value to the 4th drop and the rate of gold, XP, etc., but also to the value of Radiant chests. It isn't evil for a company to make money, and free-to-play games do have to make money to continue, and I can't guess the success of monetization so far. I personally want Hi-Rez to get money from Paladins, and for it to be able to keep growing and expanding with more staff and more stuff coming out more regularly, but I just don't think this is the way to do it. What is good is the mastery rewards. Plunk a massive gold cost on those. That is optional, that is a gold sink. The current implementation is less of a gold sink and more of a wall with randomly shifting holds most new players won't be bothered to climb. Next up, let's take another look at the legendary card system. One bad thing about it, and adding to the new player experience being worse, these legendary cards make the entry into card building a little more confusing. I think some tooltips or suggested loadouts for each of the cards could really help new players coming into Season 1. I just feel that it's a little daunting for new players to come in and start shuffling decks like they are playing Magic the Gathering. Another issue with some of the legendary cards is that they synergize so highly with some of the normal cards, like Androx's Netherstep and his Netherstep's heal from his legendary card and his normal card. Also, some cards are just better than the others' options, and it is almost like the issue we had before with some cards being better than other ones in normal decks, but amplified as these cards are intentionally super cards. This is something that can be worked out with balancing, but as they are sort of overpowered cards in theory, they seem like they could be harder to balance. Another possible issue with part of the legendary system is that almost all champions have one card that buffs damage. What really sets Paladins apart from Overwatch and some of the other competition outside of the MOBA elements and customization of builds is its time to kill and the fact there are often duels that can last a little longer. There is a worry that the time to kill, or TTK, will be lowered, especially with Kinessa now being able to one-shot headshot a lot of champions, even with level 1 or 2 Haven. And personally, I'm on the fence with this one. A lot of the champions that do have a bonus damage modifier, like Androx's headshot giving an extra 50%, the movement ability legendary card might just be objectively better. In a lot of cases, the damage buffs come with nerfs to the champion's base, and the new buffs are slightly higher than their predecessors. In-game, in the PTS, the time to kill doesn't seem that different than before, but people are still adapting and most people were picking up mobile legendaries, so it's hard to say so far, and we probably won't see until it goes live. So what's the ugly, you might ask? I think the public backlash to the meta change has been a little ugly, with explosions of "fuck this game, I'm going to Overwatch" being quite a regular sight. People are entitled to their own opinions, obviously, but I do think there is an uglier side of what is coming out at the moment. FYI, I am 100% behind all of the stink kicked up about the Essence system, pay to win and all that stuff, and also criticism of the legendary system in general. That is good, that's feedback, but some people have literally just imploded. And I do think generally people are adverse to change, and when the change is this big, it means quite a bit of adapting and then anger for the people that don't want to adapt. Although I will say this, after spending a few days on the PTS, most legendaries don't feel like they make the characters ridiculous and are a little more subtle than you'd think, but there are some that are a little bit powerful at the moment. Another is things like competitive mode and MMR haven't been touched in Season 1. Adding content has come at the cost of some fundamental game mechanics being tweaked, which I feel is a bit unfortunate, and I'm going to make a full video on that likely tomorrow or Tuesday. Anyway, these are the thoughts I've collected so far in Season 1. I sincerely hope that they scrap the Essence system, go back to the gold system, and find actual gold sinks for the veteran players and options for players who could play instead, rather than creating a mountain to climb for every new player. The legendary card system does have its pros and cons, and I don't think it is the apocalypse, but I'm tentatively looking forward to its release and seeing the new meta, and I reckon it will have some pretty big tweaks in the coming months. Also folks, I am going to be playing survival mode a lot. This is such a good thing for the game. And to Hi-Rez, don't spoil everything by cock-blocking new players. Let survival mode play out, let there be lots of players to play it, please. Anyway, what does everyone else think? Do you like, dislike, or are you completely neutral to these legendaries? Or have you actually imploded during this video? Be sure to let me know in the comment section below. If you thought it was legendary, give it a like, subscribe for me for more and some of Season 1. Thanks for watching everybody, and I'll see you next time. Joshino.